Hello, everybody. We are live. I have Jennifer here with me. I am super excited to introduce you to her. We have not had a lot, as of like yesterday's guest, we've not had a lot of opportunity to talk a lot, which is super cool because that means you get to hear a lot of the questions that I have for her for the first time and be part of this conversation. As always, I want to give her an opportunity to introduce herself, to talk to you about what she does. We do have the questions and comments opened up, but sometimes they don't always feed through. So if we don't respond to you, please know it's not that we're ignoring you. We just may not have seen it. We will go back after the live and we take a look at those comments and questions and try to respond to them. And of course, you can always reach out to us on social media via direct message. We will be giving you all that contact information at the end. So I thank everybody who's joining us live, anybody who's watching this later on the replay. And with that, I'd love to let you talk to everybody about who you are and what you do, and then we'll dig into a cool conversation.
Oh, I am so excited to be here, especially with you. And so first, congratulations on both awards that you recently received. And I know there's many in the past and there's many more to come. So I'm thankful and grateful to be here and be able to talk to you a little bit about who I am and what I do and how we help people. And my name is Jennifer Pressimone. I'm a clinical aromatherapist. With that, I'm a formulator, a product formulator, and an educator. So I do have two different companies because I love aromatherapy. And for me personally, I had a lot of health challenges about 20 almost 25 years ago, and I found holistic health by accident. So for me, I had Crohn's and colitis and got really, really sick, and the doctors had sent me to hospice. And I went to the local herb shop to find something that would plump me up and help me look a little bit more presentable at my funeral. And lo and behold, there were herbs, and the lady had just learned about aromatherapy and introduced me to that. And I started getting better. And within 3 months, I was out of the wheelchair. I was walking again. I could take myself to the bathroom, which was, a huge accomplishment, not something you think you're going to have trouble with in your 20s. And, so I fell into this career, this profession that I have as a clinical aromatherapist. But I tell you, it was the biggest blessing in the world because I got to experience firsthand the power of nature and what plants can do and what botanicals can do. And through helping myself, everybody else started saying, "What are you doing? What can you do for me? How can you help me?" I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I never really understood that term. And I think I heard that for the first time last year or this year. And I guess that's me. I didn't plan on a business. I had a career job. I had a corporate job that I loved. And I fell into this. And so where I've been able to take this journey is to take this passion I have for, I know what it's done for me. How can I help other people? How can I be that light or that hope, that inspiration that yes, there is something out there. Don't give up. There's something you can do wherever you go, wherever you are, how dark it is, that's going to be able to help you. With your health. And having a psychology background, I really gravitate and I really specialize in using scents to balance the mind, because every, physical challenge that we have is based, is kind of rooted in emotional stuff and mental challenges. And so I really bridged that. And so with the Jensen's company, I'm able to create products, aromatherapy products with that in mind, that are going to work on the emotional side and the physical side. Then I have a school, the Jensen's University, where I teach others, health and wellness professionals, holistic minded people who want to learn all the ins and the outs of how do we use, what is botanical medicine, what are essential oils and aromatherapy and herbs, and how do I use them, and how do I get results, and how do I save lives, the way that it saved mine. And so that's a little bit about, who I am and where my journey. That's the short version of where I am now, and why I love, what I do, and why I love partnering with people like you, because it's about inspiring hope and giving people tools. It's, hey, don't stress. Uh, be positive. That's great, but we have to have tools
Right.
and resources and the skill to be able to do that. And so that's, I want to be that skill builder.
Wow. And I mean, three different conversations that could take place all within this conversation. So I'll try to stay focused. It's hard because as you were talking, I'm like, that's cool. So first off, I mean, your why, right? I mean, your why is right there in the essence of your story. It saved your life, and it saved your life physically, but also as you were talking about, like just the act of being able to take yourself to the bathroom. So that was mentally saving you before you would even hit the full healing component when we start to see hope. I was talking with somebody a few weeks ago on a similar topic. It had to do with kind of creating solutions in a business organization and how that helps people. And I think it's the same thing here. Sometimes just letting somebody know there's some stuff you haven't tried yet and we're going to try it provides, as you mentioned, the hope, right? And that can happen with people mentally, physically, when we start to understand that there are some other things that we can try and we don't start to give up. That in and of itself creates healing sometimes before, not full healing, but creates the momentum to healing before we even start to engage in using the actual stuff. And so clearly your passion for it is why you're good at it. You care about people, you care about healing, you care about helping. You don't just want to sell a product, you also want to educate people. It sounds like you're educating both people that can also be entrepreneurs with it, but also people that are going to be the consumers of that so that they're making wise choices about it. And so I have a few different kind of curiosity questions because I don't know a lot about it. I've used it, right? Like I have done I don't know if this is still the case, but I have it in the house and have used it. Lavender for a headache, right? You put a little on it. So, I mean, there are some basic things that I know. Certainly when I don't feel good, right? We'll put some eucalyptus in the bathtub and that starts to create a sense of well-being. So, I have limited knowledge of that, but certainly the concept being that there are certain things that we know that are healing to us both through our sense of smell and then also what happens within our body. And so that's what I thought was kind of a cool thing, with the kind of cheeky title, right? But sense and sense. I mean, I think we need to know ourselves and we need to take time to be aware of ourselves, period, right? Whether we talk about aromatherapy or we talk about project planning, we need to know ourselves. And then we need to be considering our whole being. And we forget that, right? I'm Common sense, I think, right, tells us, we've heard this over and over again, that our sense of smell triggers memory, I think, better than anything else, right? Am I accurate that that's still the case? Okay, because I know there's a lot of, but our sense of smell, we smell something, we remember something from our childhood, we remember a favorite food, we have those associations. Maybe could you talk a little bit about this? So just because even without using the essential oil, just the smell alone, right? How does that actually promote well-being? What's the science behind us smelling something and it doing things to enhance our well-being, even before we even touch it?
I love that question. And I think that's so important because, we can go back and we can look at the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine. We can go back through all the medicinal, disciplines over the centuries. And we can see they employed oils, they employed herbs, they employed, the botanical version of that. And we got, they used it for medicinal purposes for health benefits. And really, that was medicine before we know what medicine, what the perception of medicine is today and the power of that. People don't realize, and I think they do post COVID, the importance of smell because
Right.
so many people lost their sense of smell. But we also seen a huge dip in mental health, a huge dip in emotional health. And part of it, yes, was because we were isolated and we weren't able to socialize. But the other part of that is not being able to smell. Your sense of smell also teaches you how to taste. It's responsible for so much. Your sense of smell is the only sense that does not go through the spinal cord or digestive tract to be processed. It's instant. So as soon as you smell something, it activates. And whenever, your nose, I always teach your nose is a protrusion of your brain. This is your brain on the outside. And whenever you take in a scent, it goes to the brain and says, hey, I'm these scent molecules and this is what I can do. And the brain says, ooh, okay, lavender has these relaxing components to it, it sends down your vagus nerve to your gut, your second brain in your gut, and says, I need you to take action. And it does that so quickly. And so it can activate a response very quickly. And as you've noticed, smelling lavender for headaches, it's not going to work for all headaches because, we have to assess what kind of headache it is, because it can only do what it can do. But when you smell that, you're activating that part of your brain to say, hey, what's going on? What do I need? Who needs it? Let me get it to the right area so that those messages can be sent out. And so it is part of our communication system. It activates your nervous system. It engages all of your body systems together to communicate. And so it's such a lifeline that way. And, post COVID, people that have lost their sense of smell, and still you see their depression rates are higher. They feel more lonely and abandoned and isolated because there's not that connection. Just like when we feel something soft, if I'm touching something, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so soft and it's so nice. And you can imagine, but you're not going to have that same experience as I am. Same thing happens with scent, the power of smell, and how that can enhance your mindset, your mood, your motivation level, leading with hope instead of despair or feeling defeated. It can encourage you. It's like a little lighthouse in a bottle, every sniff you take.
Yeah, well, and I think, and knowing what you do and don't like, to your point about different people being able to feel, different people being able to smell, and things like that. So depending also on what your preferences are, somebody might find lavender very soothing, but maybe somebody's got a negative association with it. So there is some understanding that has to take place to find out what's going to be the thing that's going to bring about the desired result, as opposed to just necessarily reading a book and going like, okay, this should make me feel happy, even though I had something really horrible happen, right? That may not be the thing for you. And, I like scented candles. I think a lot of us do, but I know that burning scented candles often puts a lot of other stuff into the air. Whereas when you put essential oils in water, and you're really just getting the essential oil and the water in the air. So there's obviously those benefits, and there's obviously the touch component of it. So I think it's all fascinating. There's various different ways that we can smell that smell, but what becomes kind of the best for us, and making sure you're using it correctly. I recall somebody I had talked to, and they were saying how you can use essential oils incorrectly and do damage, right? It's important that you know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So, I've got some other questions and stuff, but I think that's one thing I want to make sure, because now we're talking about how great it is to use essential oils, and I don't want to necessarily anybody to think like, I'm going to go out, I'm going to get a bunch, and if they've got a nice smell that I like, I can kind of do whatever I want with them. What do you maybe advise people? Obviously, if somebody was going to seek you out, they would have your knowledge, but just in general for the common public, in terms of if they want to start kind of checking out some essential oils, is there a specific book that you think is important to read, or there's some oils that you would be like, look, you really should not use those until you know what you're doing?
It's such a great question. I'm also the vice president with the National Association for Holistic Aromatherapy, and our platform is about awareness and safety. So you can always go to NAHA.org. It's the National Association for, aromatherapy, and they have safety tips on their safety guidelines. So that's a great place to start. Of course, I have a book, A Comprehensive Guide to Essential Oils, where I do have a lot of safety and profiling the oils and the do's and the don'ts and connections. And so you do have a lot of resources at your fingertips. The biggest thing is, number one, yes, they can work. But number two, you do have to be responsible with them. We're not taking them and going to grab them and drop them on our skin, because essential oils are fat soluble. They're not water soluble. And they're made up of chemistry. And so we don't want to burn our skin, and everybody's got different sensitivities, different allergies. And so we just want to be mindful of that. So the number one tip, especially when you're first using them, is to make sure you combine that in a carrier first, a carrier oil, like an almond oil and an olive oil. Everybody has olive oil, sunflower oil. Right. But you emulsify that, not doing internal use. I know there's a big, that's another whole big soapbox topic of, internal use. You have to just be careful, because you don't want to do something that's going to harm the internal linings of your body, but also on the external. So smell is great. It comes down to potency. How much are you using? How are you using it? The application method, just make sure you're emulsifying that. And of course, if you have an allergy to something, if you have an allergy to pine trees, don't smell pine essential oil. That's really important to know. And something that you mentioned earlier about, the scented candles, when you're using fragrance oils, there's a lot of chemicals that are in that. And so the biggest difference that I always explain between an essential oil and a fragrance oil, they both may smell good. You may love your lavender candle made with a fragrance. It may relax you, but it's also congesting the lymphatic system.
Right.
You're breathing that in and it's congesting here. A lot of people already have thyroid issues, and then when your lymphatic system gets clogged, where does it go? It gets clogged in your arms and then in your breast area. And so when we look at health challenges and the lymphatic system gets congested, that's one of the things we look at is what are you doing that's fragrance or synthetic, and how can we upgrade that to something that's more. And that's where the essential oils can come in as well. They're not going to congest. They're actually going to facilitate the lymphatic system to work better. And so using a diffuser is a great, simple way to start, because, you have your vessel and you just put the water in there and drop it, and that's coming out. Just start with a couple drops. You don't want it. You don't need 20 drops in there, because some of them are too strong. Cinnamon, for example, has blood thinning properties. And so that's the biggest one that I always teach. Be careful with your blood thinning oils. So if you're going to use oils, just read about them first. Be educated and know what you're doing and why you're doing it before you do anything. I mean, it's kind of common sense.
Yeah.
It should.
It is common sense. Yeah, exactly. Common sense. No, but I think we all tend to get caught up in things that are going on around us and forget sometimes common sense things. So I think it's always important to really say those things, because that's the responsibility that we have specifically when we're going and having a conversation like this, and you are having people that may not have any background knowledge on it,
right?
But they're catching these snippets, wanting to make sure that they're aware of that. And I think that's the same thing if they are gonna seek out somebody who is doing similar service as you. Make sure that you're checking out the background of the person, that they've got training. Reading one book or going on one website does not certify somebody to be able to teach that information. And you do want to make sure that you're being careful, both for your safety and also for maximum benefit, right? If you're going to invest in it, you really want to get the benefits. You mentioned cinnamon, and I actually had a question already, but it's funny that it ties in with that. So in 2012, I went to Costa Rica. A great story for a whole other, I could do a whole episode by myself talking about this trip that I took to Costa Rica. But one of my favorite life memories from this trip was I went on a horseback ride into the jungle, very Avatar-esque landscape, these giant trees and just the lush wildlife everywhere. And one of the things the gentleman had pointed out to us was cinnamon, which I didn't at the time realize, like, it's the bark, right? I was like, oh, wow, this is fascinating. But he was pointing these different things out, and I'm a learning lover. Like, I just give me information, let me ask questions. That's fantastic to me. So I'm asking him all these questions. So like the leader of this excursion, who happened to be a local farmer, right? He just kind of does this out his backyard, was giving me all these answers. I was just like fascinated. I'm like, wow. And he said, yes, this, ladies and gentlemen, is God's pharmacy, right? So you were noting, right, the fact that there are so many. I mean, we have barely tapped into the natural resources that we have available to us and what they can do for us in terms of healing. And some of the stuff that we do know, but there's just not as much research or time kind of invested in how we can utilize that in a way that's going to be sustainable, right? Like, we can't, if we found that there was a plant that was really good for us, we can't just go out and harvest it all. We need to make sure that we keep it, because we have to keep the ecosystem in good form. So there's a lot of pieces to that. So kind of a two-part question. I think my first question would be, from your perspective, if you had to think of kind of like a plant that you're like, this plant is just, I mean, there's a lot, but this is like one of my favorite because it does all of these wide, that covers this wide scope of things that it can do. What would maybe be one of the things that you really feel like is just a powerhouse?
Oh, that's such a hard question, and I get that
Yeah, I know.
often, and it's like trying to pick your favorite kid.
I know. So
um,
so keep in mind it's just one of. Just one of. I
Yeah,
acknowledge there's
I mean, of
many.
course, lavender is the most researched, what I was saying earlier too, with, there's a lot of um, historical data, but it's being backed by science now. So lavender is one of the most researched. I would say for somebody who doesn't like lavender and I want another oil, not lavender, that does everything. Frankincense is the first one that comes to mind.
Mhm.
And we do want to look at the species because there are some plants, and frankincense is, semi endangered right now. And so, one of the things when you're using aromatherapy, of course, you want to, use and choose a company very wisely, because the suppliers that you're getting them from, you want to make sure they're doing sustainable practices and conservation efforts to protect and to
Right.
conserve, and that's why when you use essential oils, you only use what you need. You don't need 20 drops. One drop gets you all the results that you need. We're just taught more is better, and so we sometimes have a heavy hand in that. But if we had to look at one, I would say frankincense, because it's antifungal, antiviral, antibacterial, uh, antihistamine. I think the big thing now in a lot of the health ailments is histamines and inflammation. So that does both. It is
Hmm.
my natural antihistamine. Just smelling it, I have seen allergies just really subside very quickly. So that if I have to pick one, that would be it.
That's funny. That's one of my favorite smells, and it's interesting because it reminds me of greenhouses. I don't, and I there's probably a whole thing behind that, but like as a child, I had a lot of my positive experiences were in greenhouses and gardening type things, and in walking around greenhouses with my mom and looking at plants. And the first time I smelled frankincense essential oil, it was like I was in a greenhouse. So I'm sure there's some correlation between those scents and why that happened, but I did not know that it had antihistamine capabilities. And being in a household where we've got a few different allergy type things going on, that's really good to know. Certainly, I wouldn't go out and buy it today and then, start trying to use it randomly. There's obviously some information, but I think that that's a really cool thing. And then I think um, for you, what led to, so you mentioned you were on death's door, right? At that point, right, a lot of people just psychologically kind of go into, which sometimes is good, kind of go into this like letting go, because you kind of have to, like, you're letting go, but something in you said, I'm gonna keep going. What do you think? Was it something somebody had said to you? What gave you that, no, this isn't it? There's something more. What kept you there? Do you think that there's something you could kind of pinpoint?
It's such an interesting question. And and I think back to that often, of like, why? I think just growing up, I was always an overachiever. You don't give up, you keep going, you figure it out. I, grew up with a single parent, and, had a great father figure in my life, but, we didn't have a lot of money, and we had to be very resourceful. And I think that was one piece to the puzzle, was just learning how to be resourceful. And when you learn how to be resourceful, you innately don't give up. You innately are always seeking an answer. I love problem solving. I loved putting puzzles together as a child, and I loved figuring things out. And I also am a lover of learning. And, it's just everything that you can take in. And I think that just became a fabric, that became part of my fabric. And then I think I was so sick. I didn't choose to live. I didn't choose.
Mm,
I didn't know I could choose to live. When the doctor said, you're an organ failure, you've got 6 months, there's nothing else we can do, I said okay. The look in my mother's eyes was gut wrenching and horrible, but we said okay. And so my sister's the one who said, well, maybe you can go there. I found a local herb shop. thank goodness for big sisters. She said, there's a local herb shop, maybe just go talk to her. And I remember walking in there, and the lady says, all right, so you got some health challenges. You said you're going to die. I guess I can't kill you. So let's look at what our options are, trying to make light of the situation. And she's like, all right, so let's talk about poop. And I'm like, oh my, what? And I ran out. I'm not going to talk to a lady about poop, especially, 25 years ago. That was not a common word. Now it's all over the place and it's just a common word. But, nobody knew what IBS was. Nobody knew what Crohn's was. We're in a different world. It's crazy to think 20 years later than back then. There was just, I think the parts of the fabrics of just character building, through my life that had got me to that point was just, there was something within me, that there was a fire within me. I feel like I went into autopilot. God put the right people in my life at the right time with the right knowledge. And then things just fell into place. But I was so sick. I didn't go against any of that. I just went with it. And that's why when I hear people say, oh, the fear of the unknown, I actually love there's bliss in the unknown. Because when there's an unknown, you can't get in the way. You're not bringing judgment. Judgment goes to the side. And I think because of that, I just kind of went with it, and I just let the current take me. And it took me to this beautiful place with these beautiful people who ended up in that are still huge parts of my life today. And now we do great things together and helping people. And so I would like to say, yes, I was resilient and I did it. I mean, I guess I just got out of the way. I think there's something about surrendering. And okay, if this is the end, then let's just make it great. And then you never know where that's going to take you. And so I still fall back on that sometimes when I get in ruts or I get stuck, and I'm stuck in business or I'm stuck in life or stuck in a project. I'm like, I need to back off. I need to float. I need to go back, because there's whatever I have built inside, all of these experiences I've been through in my entire life have made me. I need to honor me. I need to value who I am right now and just let that take over. Because when we get out of our own way, amazing things happen. You know that.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, and there's so many levels to it. I mean, I think it ties in with, so like when I'll be working with people, and this is whether it's an individual or an organization, there's a phrase I use called embrace the resistance.
Oh, I love it.
And in a lot of ways, it's the surrendering that you're talking about. Sometimes people feel reluctant to talk about the hesitancies or the fears that they have, because they feel like somehow that's the problem, right? Like, well, if I didn't have this fear of change, but we're growing and changing all the time. So like, why are you afraid? Let's talk about why you're afraid. What are you concerned is going to happen with this change? Dig into it, accept the fact that you have that emotion, and let's work through it. Because when you completely ignore something, oftentimes, whether it's a physical ailment or an emotional ailment, it's going to just keep churning inside of you. So it's that surrender. You don't have to give up and say, I can't do this. You also don't have to plow forward and say, like, I'm going to ignore everything that's going on inside of me. There's a combination that happens there. And when we recognize it and we face that, and we go, to the point, the person saying that comment to you, which was funny, sad, funny, right? Her being like, well, we can only go up from here. So let's try it. But there's a hopefulness in recognizing that in the darkest of times, which that was certainly a dark time for you, in the darkest of times, we can look for those opportunities and those lights that will bring us progress, whether it's going to gain us the desired result. You didn't take that thinking it was going to save your life. You took it to see what was going to happen because you were open.
But I said yes to the opportunity, just like you said. It's saying yes to an opportunity.
Yeah, and I think we tend to have some hesitance in experimenting with things sometimes because we're perceptions of what the results might be and all of our past experiences. So I think surrounding yourself with the right people, like you said, being open to hear feedback. I'm a big proponent of personal discernment coupled with hearing other people's perspectives, because a lot of times in the heat of the moment, when my mom was very ill, a lot of times she would kind of talk over different things that were being suggested to her because it's a lot. It's got all this information.
Right.
So I love that those people came into your life. Now, is the person who initially made that recommendation to you, is she's still involved
She's
in?
still my best friend. She was maid of honor at my wedding. She's still my best friend, and we still collaborate today, which is, and she really helped me cultivate recognizing that I had a gift. She told me, she's like, you do realize you have a gift with aromatherapy. Let's see where this goes. And, through, people coming in, what do you have? I started an aromatherapy bar in her herb shop, and people would come up and tell me their problems and, the power of scent. And I feel like I went through all that because I had to go to those depths to really understand and how I use that now and merging that with my gift of using scent to tell your story. Scent will tell your story. When you smell a scent and you're going to have thoughts and feelings come to mind, that's going to take us on a journey. And it helps you revisit all of these mile markers in your life. And so when we get scared and think like, oh, the judgment setting in and perception and past traumas and past emotions that are creating these emotional roadblocks, scent is so beautiful just to say, I'm going to hold your hand through this journey. I've got your back. I've got you. We're just going to walk in it. We're going to walk through it. And, I kind of have my little method I use whenever I work through helping people, and we honor, we revisit, we tap it, we honor it, we release it, we recalibrate into a higher place. That way we continue growing, we continue growing forward with that. But scent can be your best friend wherever you are in your journey. It's kind of like your security blanket to make what you're going through not so bad. And it helps you see the value in that. And, I was doing my meditation this morning, and normally we say all the lessons that we learn. And then one of the words that she used was value. If we don't want to say, because it's hard in grief to say, what are my lessons to learn from this grieving situation? But what is the value I can take with me? That sometimes feels better, so sometimes it's that mindset shift. And the scents can help you, this mindset shifting through that. And that's the power of aromatherapy, truly, to help you navigate, our minds are very powerful. They can help us, but they can also hinder us. And so, when we want to get into alignment, choosing any oil, whatever one you like, and just smelling that, is great. And creating yourself a custom blend, putting a couple scents, put the lavender. I challenge you to put the lavender and eucalyptus together, just in equal parts. One drop
I actually have. Yeah, I've done that. Yeah, it's amazing.
And it's different, right? It's a personality. And that's, part of what my next book is going to be on, is essential oil personalities. You learn to look at the oils like people. You learn to look at the plants like people. They have a personality. And whenever you learn that, then you know how they can help you. You know which ones to choose in your time of need to help you.
It's beautiful. You mentioned your book, and I do want to give you a chance to talk about your books, right? Because you have another book also.
I do. I have a few books.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and your social media, before I have you do, because I do like to have the audience get kind of some parting words from you, but let's first make sure everybody knows information about your books, about your social media, the best way to get in contact with you, find your books, etc.
Awesome. Jennifer Pressimone, Jennifer H. Pressimone is the social media handle for LinkedIn and for Facebook and Instagram. If you want to follow my journey on there. For the products, I have GenSense. And if you're interested in the school, that's GenSense Aromaversity. But staying in touch with me at Jennifer H. Pressimone is good. I do have a comprehensive guide, and I profile 109 oils and carrier oils, but also take you on the journey to understand how the mind and the body are connected, because I didn't have a resource when I started. I had to figure things out. I had to pull all the books out. We didn't really have the internet the way we have it now. And so for somebody starting their journey or still navigating from an expert level, everything is in the comprehensive guide. So I love that book. And I am in the process of contributing to clinical aromatherapy case study book coming out next year, and a personal book on essential oil personalities too. So I have some things in the works. I just try to, everything that I've learned, I want to get out and share it, because I think it can make a greater impact with other people the way that it has for me.
Yeah, and there's the value piece, right? Because it was about value for you, but it was also about value for others because of what
Yeah.
you're teaching and showing, and you cannot deny evidence in your life story, right? The evidence there, and so what an amazing full circle to go from being in that position to now being able to help other people out of that circumstance, both with your knowledge, with your story, and with your compassionate nature, right? You talk hope, you can feel it, you can hear it in your voice that you really want to receive people where they're at and help walk them on the journey. So, and I would just encourage folks too. Like I think it's important for us to connect and be in touch with people, whether you're at the stage where you're like, oh, I definitely want to find out more about this and do this. You mentioned people following you on your social media, right? Just be informed, be aware. There's a lot of things that are out there that we are unaware of. And the more we educate ourselves, the more we can make decisions from an informed place. So if you opt not to go that way, that's fine, but at least you're doing it with the knowledge of what is
Right.
available to you. So we do want to always do that. And so before we say goodbye to everybody, other than all of the wonderful gems you've already delivered, any kind of closing comments you would like to say to whomever's watching this live or watches this after the fact that you would like to kind of talk into their lives?
Oh, wow. I mean, I think, we're all on a journey. I think honoring the place that you are, one of the big things, and I'll be very transparent and very raw. I have always been an overachiever, and it's really hard not to compare yourself, to other people. How am I matching up to other people? And then, one of the things that I've really been working on, and I'm practicing, I'm not perfect, is that we can't really compare ourselves to other people. We have to be our own unique individual, because there's a reason we're unique. There's a reason, we collaborate together. You need to be you and I need to be me. And finding value in that, and don't put yourself down, and all of the lessons, that we've learned in life, think of them as value markers. All of the value, they make you who you are today, and this beautiful, amazing person that you are today. And just really coming from a place of honor. And I know, gratitude, a lot of people lead their day with gratitude, but don't forget to show yourself gratitude. And I learned that on my journey of, I thank my body every day. Thank you, body, for not giving up. Thank you, mind, for not giving up. Thank you, heart, for staying in it. Thank you, roadblocks, for staying in the background. We need to do that. And, as a true aromatherapist, coupling your gratitude and coupling your blessings with a scent can really reinforce that footprint or that handprint on your heart, so that you do connect. As you were saying, frankincense, brings back certain memories. They can bring back great memories, but they can also help you navigate through any place that you are in your life. And so, I encourage you, whether you're like, I don't know about that aromatherapy stuff or not, grab an oil. If you need help trying to pick one, message me and let me know. I love to help you on your journey wherever you are, to just keep going. But, I guess as a parting word, it's just what's on my heart right now is just really honor and value who you are. I don't think we hear that enough. I don't think we do that enough, because we're in a race. Everybody's in a race. How much can I get done today? Who can I compete with today? Who am I going to do better than today? It's just about being a better person in this moment than I was a moment ago. And how can we continue paying that forward and leading with that gratitude and sharing those blessings? And it comes from a place of honoring your value.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody's amazing, right? And we want everybody to realize they're amazing and realize that everybody around them is amazing. And miracles happen when we do that because we're all miracles. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everybody that has tuned in. Again, if you have comments or questions, we will be keeping these videos up so you can respond. They are posted on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So whichever is your platform of choice, they will be there. We're grateful very much, Jennifer, for joining us today. And everybody go out there and be your best self. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.